Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to a review of what's happened so far with the ShipHawk solution in 2023. I'm Alex Kemp with the marketing team here at ShipHawk, and I am joined today by Josh Jensen, our senior product manager, also here at ShipHawk. So hello, Josh. So actually, could you go back one slide, Josh? Sorry. I did want to kind of just walk through some housekeeping and kind of level set a little bit before we jump in here. We did a very similar webinar late last year, and I want to thank you. I know some of you were on that webinar as well. I was blown away by how much engagement and interest we got in this webinar. And so our commitment to you is to do this on a more regular basis and make sure you know what's coming, make sure what's also been released recently. And as we move forward today, please jump in with questions. Please be engaged. I really appreciate it. It makes the presentation better. We have a lot of content to share, and we have a lot of features we want to talk about, and we're going to talk about what's coming, kind of a sneak peek of what's coming. But the questions that you guys ask is really going to help us kind of tailor the conversation today. So to that end, there's a Q&A in the bottom of the Zoom here that you can use to ask questions. We plan to answer as many as possible live. We're not going to get through all of them probably. Our promise, our commitment to you is that we will follow up after the webinar and make sure that we can dive deeper into some of those questions and responses that we get. If you have any technical issues as the webinar is proceeding, if you could just drop an email to marketing@shiphawk.com, we will check that and make sure that we address your issues. Following the webinar, we will also have a recording available if you want to share it with any colleagues, or if you need to drop off a couple minutes early, we will be sending out a link to the recording. We are also going to be sending out a link to schedule some time with your account manager. So please take advantage of that. So Josh, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so first quick thing before we jump in, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that's happened. We're also going to focus on some things that are upcoming, give you a little bit of a sneak peek on some future enhancements. This is just shared for informational purpose only on future direction. So you can see, we're talking about here just informational purposes only. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we go deep today, and we're going to get into the details, I promise. We're going to get into a lot of the specifics. I do want to remind all of you why ShipHawk exists, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to help our customers achieve. What's our North Star? And our overarching goal is to help customers automate and improve their world behind the buy button. And what does that mean? Well, what it means is that currently our customers, they have a lot of complexity in managing their warehouse and fulfillment operations. So you have retailers looking to do B2B, you have wholesalers looking to do B2C, you have growth, you have new carriers, you have new geographies, new SKUs, all these challenges being thrown at you. Our goal is to make sure that we sort through that complexity with you and try to remember the North Star, what we're trying to achieve, and those metrics that you're trying to achieve. So things like increasing packages per day, per shift, per person, increasing revenue per day, increasing orders shipped within the SLA of the end customer, reducing missed shipments, supporting your unique workflows, and onboarding and training your team. Everything we do is focused, basically in summary on speed and accuracy in your warehouse and as you grow. And that's why we exist. That's what we're trying to solve. And again, we're going to go into a lot of details and the specifics. Everything that we're doing is trying to orient back to those goals of speed and accuracy in your warehouse and fulfillment process. So we're going to move into the details in just a couple of slides here, but I did want to just start with that because I think it's a really important call out. One quick other note here, and then I'll turn it over to Josh in just a minute here. 2023 has started with an unpredictable way. There's economic headwinds. There's a lot of change. There's many things happening, but I do want to celebrate you guys, our customers, and just point out that I was looking at some metrics recently of just to change within a year from Q1 of 2022 to Q1 of 2023. And you guys are shipping a lot more, almost 40% more. So kudos to you. that is a big accomplishment. That is a big increase as well. So I just wanted to start with that because I think it's a really important metric. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Josh, and he's going to go into a lot of the details on what happened and what's coming. So Josh, welcome, and over to you. Josh, you're on mute too, by the way.
All right, Alex, good to find that mute button. Thank you for that introduction. I wanted to welcome everyone. I'm glad that you were able to join us today, and hopefully we find this, you find this webinar very helpful to know what we've been working on, what are the enhancements that have either recently been introduced or are going to be coming soon. So as Alex said, we're going to be going into a lot of detail today. There are a number of slides. Our team's been hard at work. And as Alex said, if you have any questions, feel free to put them down into the Q&A. We will try to answer them in line as the webinar is going on as much as possible. But also, if you want to have a follow-up conversation on any of these features, really talk through how they will impact your business and your operations and your warehouse team, we're glad to schedule those follow-up meetings. And I know you will be getting an email after this webinar with links to schedule time with the account manager or myself as a product manager, any of our team, to make sure that you understand how these impact you. We're going to be covering a lot of content in this. Just reach out to us and we're happy to go into more detail. So the goal of this webinar is to look at the features that have been released here primarily in Q1. We've had 3 major releases in 2021. The first one was in January. The second one was in early March, and the third one is actually scheduled for tomorrow. You've probably already received the notification of an upcoming release with a list of some of those key features. We're going to be going through some of these today. So if you see something and you have a question, hey, I haven't seen that yet in ShipHawk, it may be coming out tomorrow. Some of these features that we'll talk about will also be released over we've implemented them. We're going to be rolling them out to groups of customers over the next couple of weeks and months. So you may see them immediately and you may see them later on. But for today's webinar, we're going to cover a number of different sections. We're going to start out and take a look at some of the enhancements to ShipHawk's WMS platform. Then we're going to get into the carriers and brokers. We're going to take a look at the workflow automation that we have in ShipHawk. What are those processes that your team is working, that your team is using in the warehouse to help them accelerate the packing and the shipping process? We'll look at some of the source system integration enhancements that we've done, and then also talk at the end a little bit about some performance optimizations. One of our goals is to make sure that you are able to process shipments and packages as quickly and efficiently as possible. And so we've actually been looking at our platform to make sure that we are providing the speed and the efficiency you need in our platform to power your workers. We're going to pause at the end of each section if you do have any questions to answer questions related to that section. So again, type them into the Q&A and we'll answer them as soon as possible. So without further ado, let's jump right in. First one is the ShipHawk WMS. And hopefully everyone that's on this call is aware by now that in late 2021, ShipHawk acquired a Tier 1 warehouse management system. And over the last year, we have been working to expand the reach of that. We've done a lot of integration between our WMS and our TMS platform to really provide a seamless solution for those of you that are looking for a single supplier, a single vendor that can provide that end-to-end warehouse automation solution. So a couple of features that we have released in just Q1, I've listed them here. We're not going to go into all of them in detail. I'm going to talk about the first 2 on the next couple of slides. If there's anything else that catches your eye, please feel free to reach out to talk to them further. I do want to touch on the second to last slide though, and I mentioned it before, is we have continued to integrate the WMS platform with our multi-carrier shipping platform. We want to make that as seamless as possible so you can directly pack and ship from within the WMS. You can also take advantage of things of different features that are available in our shipping platforms, things like the rate shopping. If you want to go out there and compare the different carrier rates, make sure that you are getting the best rate for that shipment based on the package profile, the items that are in that, the destination address, and the service you need. You can now access all of the different shipping or the rate shopping directly within the WMS. You don't need to jump back and forth from the WMS UI if you're using that into the shipping UI and back and forth to get those features. You can all do that in one place. So a couple of the features that I wanted to share with you specifically, the first one is around the tote and cart optimization. And the ShipHawk WMS can now be configured to look at different tote and cart sizes when it's optimizing the picking. Previously, when WMS was scheduling out and planning the picking path, we would use the same size cart or the same size tote. And then that worker would take that cart with the even sized totes out onto the floor to pick those. With the new feature, the orders will still be assigned and the pick path will still be generated based on minimizing the overall travel of the worker throughout the warehouse to optimize that pick path. Will also continue to honor all of the rules that have been set up and the restrictions that you have for mixing and matching different order profiles. And any sort of packing requirements you have on a single cart, you can set up rules to make sure that you're not mixing orders that shouldn't be mixed. But you can now generate the pick path and the totes using multiple sizes of both the carts and the totes in a given cluster. One of the reasons that we did that is not only at the request of the customers, but one of the features that we're looking to release later in 2023 is an integration with 6 River Systems. And they have a cobot solution, an automated cart that will follow a prescribed path along the warehouse to help with the picking, and their solution supports different size carts and different size totes. And so this is not only a feature that you can start using today using the existing software, but later on, if you want to integrate it with some of these advanced automation solutions, this is a feature that's going to support some of the work that we're doing later this year. One of the other enhancements that we've done is what we're referring to as dynamic consolidation of orders. A lot of you work with large businesses or large retail customers that frequently place multiple orders for different goods throughout the day. They're constantly sending you new or supplementary purchase orders for new goods, and they want all of those consolidated at the end of the day. Well, the WMS solution has always been able to look at the end customer and the end destination where these are shipping and combine those orders at the time of packing. But this new feature actually looks at the orders as they're being imported from the source system and can combine them up front. So not only do we optimize the packing and the shipping process, but now we can optimize the picking process as well. These orders get synchronized. They will be identified as soon as they come in. Instead of sending those out on different pick tickets, they can be combined because ultimately there are multiple orders that are going to the same destination. They're orders that we pack together. So this just optimizes both the shipping process, which was already there, and the packing process, but also the picking process based on these large orders that get placed throughout the day. The goal is more efficient assignment of your warehouse resources, making sure that you're optimizing the picking as much as possible, and your customers are going to receive a single optimized delivery based on their demand over any given day. So those are some of the key features that we've already introduced or are introducing here at the beginning of the year. Some other features that we are working on for later in 2023. Some of these were already shared with you on our 2022 end of year summary. Some additional support for inventory detail out of NetSuite. Actually, some customers actually want to be able to use our WMS and TMS without a host ERP. So the ability to actually receive orders and to actually use the WMS platform without an ERP. And then also, as I mentioned on one of the previous slides, integration with different advanced automation platforms, 6 River Systems, I already mentioned, white carousels, LogX, and Voodoo. Here are a couple of actually slides of some of those automated picking solutions. The one on the right is are different cobots that go along with the picker around the warehouse floor. So we are streamlining and integrating directly with some of these solutions for those of you that are planning to automate your warehouse in these ways.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Josh. Looks like we've got a couple questions coming in. So the first one, Jason asks, how does the WMS integrate with NetSuite? Can it pick kit and package NetSuite items? And Nivesh actually is on our product team as well, and he's kind of heading off some of the questions in the background. He answered, ShipHawk WMS has been integrated with NetSuite since 2007 using a real-time REST built by ShipHawk, providing access to all traditional workflows from the ERP, including kitting, assemblies, packaging. He also added ShipHawk WMS supports standard NetSuite kit item, assembly item, inventory item, and non-inventory items. Josh, anything you would add to what Nivesh answered there?
No, I think that's a pretty complete answer. Okay.
Perfect. And then looks like Danny also asked a question as well, which is around dynamic consolidation. Do the shipping details write back to the individual item fulfillments after being shipped? And Nivesh also answered, yes, it will confirm back the shipment details to each original IF, including all tracking numbers, and can prorate the shipping fees to these IFs as well. Again, Josh, anything you would add? Nivesh is kind of stealing your thunder here, but
that's quite all right. I'm going to be doing an awful lot of talking here over the next 30 to 45 minutes. So I'm glad to have his help. No, as he said, when those orders do sync over as item fulfillments, we will actually respond back and do a write back to each one of those original item fulfillments, even though we're doing the consolidation as far as the workflow and the way they get picked and packed. We will write back to those individually.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, so obviously you can see lots of exciting things happening in the WMS. I would encourage you, if you haven't talked to our team yet, specifically about WMS, please do set up some time, and we're happy to talk through the solution and also talk through your use case as well. We've been adding a lot of customers to WMS, as Josh already highlighted. I am also going to paste an asset in the chat right now, and it's basically a helpful starting point if you're kind of going, okay, where do I get started with WMS? It's around the 10 competencies of kind of good, great, and kind of best in class warehouses. So again, I'll paste that in the chat. And then the other thing I'll highlight too is we do have a webinar coming up in a little bit less than a month with Jack Starr, who's on the solution consulting team. And he's going to go into detail on top automations with ShipHawk WMS and what's possible. This is another can't miss webinar. So look for those invites to come out very soon. And this is coming up on May 11th. So just wanted to highlight that.
All right. Continuing on, now we're going to shift gears a little bit, jump over to some of the enhancements that have been released here in Q1 and are planned for the 3.0 release tomorrow that are part of our shipping platform. And we're going to start with enhancement to our carriers. Now, before we get into the new carriers, I did want to take a look back. I know a lot of you attended our 2022 year-end overview webinar in December, but I did just want to take a look back at that webinar. We actually talked about a number of the integrations that we did in 2022. ShipHawk added quite a few different carriers, some different regional small parcel carriers. Lone Star Overnight was one for those merchants that are in and around Texas that use that carrier. We now have an integration with Lone Star Overnight. Loomis Express, which is a parcel carrier up in Canada, we have an integration with them, and a number of LTL carriers. We also shared with you about different USPS discounts that are now available. ShipHawk has negotiated rates with the US Postal Service to offer less than commercial rates to everyone that's using the ShipHawk platform based on the combined volume that we ship through the platform. This is a collective benefit that all ShipHawk users have access to. And on average, you can save over $1 per shipment when shipping with USPS. Hopefully you've already signed up for this or linked to this pricing within your account. If you do have any questions or would like to learn more about this, please reach out to us. We'd love to get you set up with this feature that's available to all of our customers. So the first new carrier integration that I want to talk about is FedEx Freight Direct. This is a new set of freight services FedEx originally had announced back in 2019, but they're now really actively promoting this and encouraging merchants to start shipping via FedEx Freight Direct. These are freight services that are really target the needs of e-commerce businesses that are shipping LTL to small businesses and primarily residential addresses. FedEx claims that their FedEx Freight Direct covers pretty much 100% of US continental addresses, so in the lower 48. And what they've done is they've actually grouped different combinations of accessorials that are common for residential delivery and final mile delivery into this new LTL service that they've branded FedEx Freight Direct. Now, they don't even have a full API or a unique API to call out FedEx Freight Direct services, but we've worked directly with them to make sure that when you're doing your rate shopping within ShipHawk, when you're selecting the carrier service that you want, that you have access to these FedEx Freight Direct services. One of the other carrier updates that we've done last year, OnTrack and LaserShip announced that they were going to be merging services. They're going to be becoming one company, and ShipHawk has updated our OnTrack carrier integration to make sure that not only can you ship via OnTrack through what their traditional range had been, but you can actually ship packages to destinations across the entire merged network. Now, ShipHawk does not have a full LaserShip integration yet. We have not done an API integration to be able to ship on LaserShip, but with OnTrack, you can now ship across their entire network transcontinental. One of the other ones, this was actually released back in 2022, so you may be aware of it, but we were still in some final testing in Q4, and so we was not included in our 2022 overview, so I wanted to make sure to mention it here. C.H. Robinson, they're the largest 3PL in the US, and we have completed a direct integration with C.H. Robinson to make sure that those merchants that are using C.H. Robinson get the fastest and the best support possible. So we've done that direct integration. We upgraded our connection to them, and starting in Q4 last year, this has now been rolled out to customers that have connections with C.H. Robinson. A few other kind of minor services or enhancements related to carrier connections. I'm not going to go through them all. I did want to point out one here, though, and that is the FedEx Ground for residential. In the past, whenever ShipHawk would do rating of FedEx Freight services to a residential address, we would default to FedEx Home Delivery because that's the default and that's the recommended service that FedEx uses for residential addresses. But we heard from some of you, our customers, that either you or the retailers that you ship on behalf of prefer using FedEx Ground, even though that's really designated for commercial. You want to ship FedEx Ground anyway, even if you're going to get the residential surcharge. And so what we've done is we now have the ability to configure in your account that it's okay to ship FedEx Ground to residential addresses. And we will actually load in and take into account the fact that there is a residential surcharge when we're doing rate shopping. If you want to see, is it cheaper to send FedEx Home Delivery or is it cheaper to send FedEx Ground with the residential surcharge? So in some cases, depending on your negotiated rates, it may be the latter may be cheaper. And so therefore, there's no reason for you to use the FedEx Home Delivery.
All right, perfect. Let's maybe just take a quick pause here and just remind everyone too, if you have any questions, paste in the chat. I know we've gotten a couple, and again, we're not going to be able to answer probably all of them live. Our promise commitment to you is that we will circle back and get you those answers to some of the questions that are coming in, obviously very specific use case type of stuff that need to be worked through. So any questions on carriers and brokers before we move on to the next section? All right.
Okay, yeah.
Josh,
And,
moving here.
and folks will continue answering questions in the background if anything does come up. Next, I want to talk about workflow enablement. As Alex mentioned, we've been talking to a lot of customers during Q1. The product managers, my colleagues and I, actually were on a lot of the business review calls with a lot of our customers, a lot of the ShipHawk users, and we asked a lot of questions to really understand how you are using ShipHawk. What are those key things that you value in ShipHawk that are helping you drive more efficiency and get more productivity in your warehouse? And one of the main topics that kept coming up again and again, which makes sense, is how ShipHawk helps enable your workflow. And we tried to ask a lot of questions to understand how you operate your warehouse, how your warehouse is set up. And we've taken some of that feedback, we've actually integrated into some of the features and are influencing our roadmap based on how you need ShipHawk to work in your warehouse to unlock that productivity. One of the first features that we've done, and one of the key things that help automate some of the decision-making in your warehouse, is ShipHawk's rules engine, the ability to specify exceptions to just the standard packing and rating. If you need things to go in a certain box or in a certain carrier, rules can be set up to look at conditional statements and then actually take some action on that shipment to make sure that it's going out the way that you expect it to go out. And one of the feedback that we got pretty consistently is rules are great, but you'd like to have some advanced logic. So in Q1, we actually released a logical OR operator for our rules criteria. So when you are setting up a rule in ShipHawk, in the past, you could set up multiple criteria. If my shipment is going to California and it's a FedEx shipment, but it was always and, right? Both of those criteria had to be true in order to take that action. And what would happen is sometimes you would have a single action that you wanted to take, but you would have different criteria, and it wasn't required for all of them to be true in order for you to take that action. So that caused you to have to go in and actually create multiple rules to drive that same action. So we heard from a lot of you, it sure would be a lot simpler if I could just combine those by using a logical OR. Well, we've now released the ability to use logical OR when stating multiple criteria. And you can actually combine and OR operators. I've got a very simple situation here on the right side of the screen. If I'm shipping, if my carrier type is small parcel and any of the following are true. So this is a fictitious shipment. I want for anything that's going to New England states or upstate New York. In the past, if I wanted to create a rule based on both destination state and destination zip code, I couldn't say or, and was the only option. So I'd have to break that up. Here, I've created one where it says destination state is one of, and then I've listed out the New England states, or the destination zip code starts with 128, which is the zip code prefix common in Northern New York. This is one possible example. Obviously, there's a lot more, but hopefully the goal of this is to make sure that you can create rules that are really targeted for exactly the scenarios that you need to apply those rules actions. This will give you more flexibility to create those rules. Now, we always recommend when using rules to keep them as simple as possible. Now, lots of criteria can overcomplicate things. You can have conditional criteria, one criteria that influences another criteria. So we still recommend that you keep them simple, but this is a great way that's going to give you more flexibility to create more targeted rules. Now, one note, OR logic is not possible for rule actions. If this criteria is true, do this or that. ShipHawk isn't going to know which one to apply. So each rule still has a fixed action. That OR logic really is for the criteria. So in addition to the kind of this fundamental change about how you set up rules, ShipHawk has also added a number of new rules actions that help you automate more processes. A lot of these were based on feedback that you had submitted that we've collected over time, and we introduced a number. I'm going to talk just about a couple of them. If you do want to look into any more details, you can always look in the release notes for the past release or contact your account manager to talk about these more. One of the ones that I think is going to be really interesting to a lot of people is our mask carrier in service rule. This is a popular rule for e-commerce carriers. And in the past, we had the ability to apply a carrier in service mask, which would just say overnight, and then it would give you the lowest of all your overnight carriers, a 2-day, a 3-day, and a ground. Well, we now have the ability from within that same rule that you can go in and you can specify your own masks. Maybe you don't want to promise all four of, you don't want to show all 4 of those levels in your cart. You just want to specify 3 levels. Or you want to be able to say, well, I want an express shipment that combines both overnight and 2-day services. Not only can you define your new service and give it whatever name you want, you can go in and you can mask different ShipHawk service levels or specific services into that mask. So you now have complete control about the way the masks are set up, how they're shown to the users. The second one that I want to point out here is the external shipments, being able to set an external shipment. ShipHawk always, of course, does its rate shopping based on the carriers that are linked and are pre-configured in ShipHawk, but we've always had this flag to be able to set the external shipment if you're using a carrier that's outside of one of your pre-configured, or it's a company truck or whatever you want to set up that's not one of the integrated carriers. In the past, the shipper would have to go in and manually click this external shipment and then select which carrier they wanted, which service they wanted, and manually enter a price. You can now automate that step. The goal of this is to save time. They no longer have to go in and manually configure this, but also to reduce the number of mistakes, right? They're typing, they've got their gloves on, they're going fast trying to get that box out, and they type in the wrong carrier, select the wrong carrier. When you automate it, you reduce the number of errors, you take away those manual steps, and you help your shipper get those packages out on time. So a number of other rules here. We won't go into the details. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. If you do have any questions, again, take a look and let us know how we can help. So switching over from our rules engine to one of our other main features that help automate the workflow in your warehouse is smart packing. And one of the key things about smart packing is whenever you configure an item in ShipHawk, you always set an item type value. And in the past, we had a very long list of different item types that you could set up. You could set up as a pallet, a box, a parcel, a crate, a box, an unpacked box, unpacked generic item. And there was a long list. And one of the things that we found, each one of those actually described a certain packing behavior, but there were almost too many of them. Most people just defaulted to a few standard base item types, but then those base item types didn't always give the packing behavior that they wanted. So we've actually gone in, we've updated and simplified the way that items are configured in ShipHawk. We now have 3 item types: a loose item, which is an item that always needs to be packed; a box item, which can go on its own. But one of the new behaviors that we're able to do is we can actually pack a box with other items, and also a pallet. This is a standalone handling unit that it's already on a pallet and it ships as a handling unit. But along with those, we've now brought out some of the specific packing behaviors. Instead of hiding those behind the item type and you just had to know what those item types are, we've brought those out in English within the item type configuration. Do not pack the other items with other items when parcel. This is saying, can I take this box item and does it need to ship alone, or can I put it in a box with other items if the order contains more than one line item? You have the power and flexibility to say, do you want this to be palletized or not? Do I always want to ship this small parcel, or is it okay to put onto a pallet before I ship it out if it's with a large order? And then also, do not pack with palletize. If I'm putting it onto a pallet, do I really need to put it into a box first, or can I just stack that item directly on a pallet? So this is both simplifying it. You're going to, it's going to be much more natural and easy to pick what type of item it is, but you're also going to get the flexibility to define what the packing behavior is. Now, we've implemented this in such a way that those of you that are syncing products over from NetSuite, you don't need to change a thing in NetSuite. When you're switched over to the new item type view in ShipHawk, the current item configuration that you have loaded in the products tab in NetSuite, we know how to interpret that over to the new item type. So you're going to get the identical packing behavior that you've always seen with the existing item types. But what we will do is we actually will convert those over. The only changes you'll need to make is if you have specific items that you want to take advantage of some of the new packing behaviors, you'll need to change some settings there. I think it's going to be a much more intuitive interface, much easier for you to use. And we expect a lot of people to take advantage of this. This is going to be a feature that we've already rolled out to some users. We're going to be rolling this out to groups of users over the next few weeks and months based on your specific packing needs and packing scenarios. Again, it's seamless with the existing types, but this gives you more flexibility. Moving along. Workflow automation. In the past, we've always, in the order detail screen, that's the main landing page when you come into ShipHawk, you've always had the ability to look at new, picked, packed, shipped, delivered categories and been able to filter them. But sometimes you only want to show a given packer or worker a specific subset of orders. And we now have the ability, we've already rolled this out to some customers. This is going to be coming to more customers over the next month or two. Eventually, you're going to be rolling it out to everyone, where you can go in and you can create your own filters. So if you have a workstation that is for batch processing, you want to just pull everything with a given SKU, right? Some of our customers actually have or do subscription services where you ship out a monthly item every month to your full range of customers. This is very helpful. I only want to see items that contain that particular order. You're doing batch processing. Instead of having to manually filter through or do a search in the order history screen, you click on this one button. You will be presented with your packer will be presented with only a list of all of the items that are going out. So very helpful with batch processing. If you ship to SLA, I want to be able to ship all the orders that have come in today. I only want to view those that have a ship date of today, and I don't want my packer to be distracted or to have to filter through orders that need to ship tomorrow. You can do that. You can filter it by carrier. If you have a particular pack station just for FedEx, there are lots of different ways that you can filter to really dial in the view to drive that efficiency, to make sure that you take away some distractions from your packers. Next one is packing workflows. This is a feature that we did discuss in our 2022 overview. It's something that some of you are already using, and we're looking to get more and more early adopters. While we're still rounding out the full feature set, we've done a number of improvements here in Q1, things like printing the carton labels while packing the boxes. This is a packing interface. You select the items that go into which boxes, but you have a large order. You want to be able to print out that carton label as you finish and close that particular box. It prints out right away. You put it on, you move to the next box. That helps you keep track of where the boxes are, what's in those boxes, instead of getting the long list of carton labels at the end. I've actually got a short video that I was going to share here that shows one example order being processed through our packaging workflows. And this is a very simple order. I'll set the stage here. two line items. The first has quantity 10, the second has quantity 5. The user is going to come in, they're going to scan an order using a barcode scanner from the pick ticket. They're going to scan the first item, select pack all, manually select a container, and then go on and do the same process with the second. ShipHawk also supports the ability to print out barcode labels to do selection of the material. So you don't even have to have the user click or do any clicks within ShipHawk. They can actually process and pack the entire order using the scanner, other than confirming the quantity amount if there's multiple quantity, and then being able to actually book and ship directly from this workflow. So here, customer logs in, they scan in an order number, the two line items pop up showing the quantity. They select the first item for packing, select the material that they want to put it in, and close the package. They then go in and scan the second item. Here, they're clicking on the pack all button. They could also pack a subset of those. Again, picking the box manually. They now have 2 boxes in their shipment, finish and ship. A streamlined workflow that takes away all of the information that's on the order details screen that the packer doesn't need to know about, and just focuses them, allows them the view of each item, the quantity of each item, and allows them to select into the box. One of the enhancements we're doing in a future release here in our next release is actually integrating smart packing with this. So smart packing will actually recommend how you can optimize the combination. So either your worker can manually choose the container, but we'll also be supporting smart packing. So this is the type of continual innovation that we're doing to help enable that automation of your workflows and drive that efficiency.
All right, Josh, you earned a break. That was a lot of content to get through. So
there's a lot of stuff. It's amazing how much our team has done in just a few months.
It is. It certainly is. So as Josh already mentioned, we are constantly enhancing workflow and automations around workflows. And the goal is to give you very specific tools to meet your unique needs and use cases. But we need your feedback on what are those use cases. As Josh mentioned, we spend a lot of time with you, our customers, and even the product team on calls with customers. And our goal is just to gather that feedback. So to that point, Jason left some feedback on smart packing. Jason, really appreciate that feedback. That's super helpful. Joe and Michael both had some questions too. I'm gonna read them here, and then our product team already answered them too. So going to give you another little break, Josh, here too. So the first question from Joe was, any optimizations or recommended workflows for working with customers like Walmart that do routed shipments? So Nibesh replied back, ShipHawk has the ability to generate customized carton labels for retailers like Walmart, and we have a new SPS ASN connector, which Josh has a slide on in just a few minutes here. But we don't have a specific support for order routing process at this time. And I'll just call out at this time. Our goal here is, if there is feedback that a common set of customers can use, we want to know that. So really appreciate that feedback, Joe. The other question came in here from Michael, and he said, during my company's implementation, it was advised to us not to use multiple actions within a shipping policy so as to avoid issues with the shipping policy not executing. Is that correct? Nibesh also responded back to this, which is the rules engine does have the ability to execute multiple rules actions in a single rule, but there is a possibility of different rule actions conflicting with each other or running into a race condition, kind of which can execute first. So it is advised to only use one action per rule. And the new functionality we talked about, it's for creating multiple rule criteria. So Josh, anything you want to add on top of this and the question answer?
Especially for that second one, best practice is the single action. That's not always practical. There are exceptions to that. But as I said, keeping those rules simple makes them easier to manage, right? The OR criteria allows you to combine multiple rules into one that are driving the same action. But we do generally recommend that one action per, just because of the order of the way different things execute. If you say a packing material and a carrier well, what if that packing material isn't suitable for that carrier? Hopefully you're never going to run into that sort of conflict, but there can be different, different actions can drive different behavior. So we do recommend just one at a time. And if you have a specific scenario, we'd be glad to talk through it with you, figure out how we can make sure that that's optimized. All right, shall I continue? I know we're running a little bit short on time, and I've got a number of slides. So let's keep going. Please keep the questions coming. I'd probably say we'll try to answer those directly in the chat, have follow-up discussions, but we've still got a number of slides. Next, I want to talk about is integrations. This question just came in about SPS for larger customers that are using EDI solutions. One of the main benefits of ShipHawk is the integration with your ERP systems and with your carriers, right? We take care of all of that back channel communication and doing the synchronization. When item fulfillments come over, there's automatically synced from the source system, they're processed in ShipHawk, and then we write back the package level shipment information back up to the ERP into custom ShipHawk fields. You then, within NetSuite or Acumatica or whatever ERP you're using, you can then pay a consultant to come up with whatever action you need to take on that information, wherever you need to write that back or to be able to close out a particular order or invoice your end customer. But as this comment or as the question had, some of the larger retailers that place orders with you use EDI platforms like SPS Commerce. That's the way they get notified, and they get these advanced shipment notifications. Hey, this order has been processed, it's on its way. ShipHawk has actually done an integration. This is still in beta, but it is available now, where if you're using SPS Commerce, instead of ShipHawk writing back that item fulfillment and package information into the ShipHawk fields, we can actually write that same order confirmation and shipment confirmation information directly back into SPS Commerce. And that will automatically generate the ASN. So you no longer have to get someone to come into your system and design some sort of custom routine to take that information, share it, and generate that ASN. It's all done through the integration with ShipHawk. It's going to reduce the integration time, going to reduce the chance of errors, the time debugging, and less need for a consultant to come in and create something custom for you. We now have done that. We've tested out that connection. We can write directly back into those SPS Commerce records. And those ASNs will get automatically generated. We've also added in, talking about our NetSuite support. Some of you have a single NetSuite instance, but you operate multiple subsidiaries, different companies that you're processing all of those orders through a single ERP instance. In the past with ShipHawk, we always had just one default shipment method. If shipment method was not passed down to ShipHawk, now you can set up a different default shipping method for each of your subsidiaries, rather than for the entire ShipHawk account. And also, if you have multiple subsidiaries, each of which have different shipping services, you can map multiple shipping services back to a single ShipHawk shipping method. So if you have a ShipHawk FedEx Ground account configured in ShipHawk, and in NetSuite, you have Ground for subsidiary A and Ground for subsidiary B. You can map both of those back up to the single ShipHawk service. So it makes it easier. You have, in both ways when you're dealing with multiple subsidiaries in ShipHawk. One of the next major connector enhancements and integration enhancements that we have is around some Amazon vendor central updates. We know that Amazon is a key marketplace for many of the merchants that ship products using ShipHawk. Vendor Central is their platform that you use to manage the business, your business with Amazon as one of their vendors. Last year, Amazon actually made it mandatory for some vendors that are using direct fulfillment to ship using Amazon transportation. In 2022, ShipHawk actually did a direct integration with Amazon Transportation's API, so you can ship those orders that come in through direct fulfillment via Amazon Transportation Services. A lot of you are already using that, but now we've expanded our Vendor Central integration to support vendors that are shipping purchase orders outside of direct fulfillment. So if you're shipping to the Amazon warehouse and you're either required to or you want to use Amazon Transportation to do those shipments to their distribution centers, you can now book those orders with Amazon Transportation, and we'll book those and we will automatically update the ship status in Vendor Central for you. So you don't need to do that integration or manually go back and update that order is shipped. With this integration, not only for the direct fulfillment, but also outside of direct fulfillment, those orders that are going to Amazon, both of those have that integration with Vendor Central. A few other NetSuite enhancements. I'm not going to go into these today. Enhanced support if you're using multiple carriers where you have one tracking number for the original shipment, then a separate tracking mile for last number shipping, being able to sync delivery and pickup instructions and longer form shipping notes. If you need to make sure that that you've got notes handling instructions about that item, we've expanded the capability to put in longer notes and to print out both and sync up both delivery and pickup instructions to notify the appropriate people that need those different text fields. We've also been working on our Acumatica integrations. Just a few things to mention here. One is we now support shipment method mapping to resolve different methods and when you have ShipHawk and Acumatica with their ship vias. We've actually built out an interface inside of Acumatica that allows you to map the ShipHawk shipping methods with your ship vias to make sure that you're getting the right service that you expect when that order gets synced over from Acumatica. Or you can also, from within this view, you can actually specify if there is no ship via, do you have a default ship method that you want to specify? This feature actually works both on the rating end if you're using ShipHawk to do your in-cart rating or rating through your customer service team, and also with the shipment when you're importing the shipment or the order from Acumatica to then process and send out. We've also implemented webhooks to drive better performance improvements. This is really a major thing. You're not having to sit around and wait for the response. The webhook allows you to asynchronously get that information back to get that better performance when you're using Acumatica. We've improved our accessorial and expanded our accessorial support when you want to send out accessorial information with shipments going out of Acumatica. And then also we've made some improvements to the way that the shipment imports are done.
All right, thanks, Josh. I was going to give you a longer break because you've been doing a lot of talking. But in the interest of time, just have a couple minutes left here. I do want to talk about performance, and I couldn't think of anyone better than Josh to talk about this. But I do just want to quickly say on integrations, we know how important those are into the e-commerce cart, into the ERP, into the source system. We are constantly focused on enhancing those integrations because we know how important they are and they need to work completely seamlessly. So with that said, Josh, if you want to dive into performance as our last area here.
Absolutely. I'm going to go quickly. I know we're running up against time here. Just a lot of content. So one of our key initiatives, and we talked about this at our 2022 year-end overview and the forecast that we gave for 2023, is about performance. We've been adding a lot of features over the last couple of years, supporting a lot of different integrations. We've now gone back and we've taken a very focused look on, are we getting the best performance at all stages of the packing process? Is the UI responsiveness? Are the pages loading and rendering fast enough? When you do an order search from within ShipHawk, is that fasting? How can we speed up the rating? How can we speed up the booking? So I'm going to touch briefly on a bunch of these, not a lot of details here. One of the first areas, though, that you will see a significant performance improvement is on the orders history page. Right now, you can set up to view as few as 5 orders or as many as 500 orders. For those users that wanted to be able to list as many orders as possible, you've probably experienced the fact that it takes a long time to load. We're getting all of the order information for 500 different orders. That's a lot of calls, and it would take a long time to render this page. We've now taken a long look at that process. We've optimized where it used to take, in some cases, in extreme situations, 8 to 10 seconds or more. These pages, even when you have it maxed out at 500 or 250, a lot of orders, now you can render them in the matter of just a few seconds. So we've sped that out. This is something we've already released to some customers. We're rolling it out over time to other customers so that all of you will see the best performance. Now, we always recommend for optimum performance that you consider your business needs. Is it really important to list 500 of the next high priority orders? Or is 25 enough, right? Find the lowest level that still makes sense for your business, that gives your packer and shipper access to those orders. Combine those with the saved views to be able to filter out just the important views for that particular workstation to really optimize performance. But for those of you that do want to show as many as possible, we've now accelerated that. We've now found some improvements and made significant 60 to 70% improvements in the way that that page is rendered. Another area that we've done some focused performance is around the order search. One of the common workflows, you're in an order detail screen, you're processing the order, you're ready to jump to the next order, so you just scan that next order, or you type it in directly from the order detail screen. You don't want to have to go back to the order history page, search for that order. You've got the next one sitting there on the table next to you. I just want to scan or directly search for that order. In this case, we've optimized that search process in the rendering of the order, the new order detail screen, where it will go 50% faster. So whereas before it take a few seconds, now it'll take half that time. Again, this is less time that your packer is spent waiting for the new information to come up, more time that they have to actually process the order and get it out the door. We've also been looking at rating and booking optimizations. We've done some back end and some front end optimizations as far as the rating speed. Now, one caveat, there are a lot of factors that can impact performance. The number of carriers you have, the size of the order and the complexity of the packing configuration, whether it's LTL versus small parcel, right? And there are some things that ShipHawk cannot control. The response time from the carrier. We've done the integration with the carrier, but it's going to take time for us to do our calculations in order to send that proposed shipment out to the carrier. So there are some things that we can't control, but there are some things we can. We understand that rating speed is about cart conversion. If your consumer is sitting there having to wait for rates, we want to make sure that they see the best rates as soon as possible. And so we're looking to optimize this. For booking, once the order is all packed up, you want to book, you want to print out those labels and get that out the door. We've done some optimizations here. One of the main ones I just wanted to mention here is the ability to re-rate orders before you book. Traditionally, ShipHawk has always done a final rating just to make sure that you have the latest rate so you can print that out. But if you're shipping same day, generally shipping rates aren't going to change that fast. By taking just that step out of the rating of the booking process, we can save a couple of seconds per shipment, which over time add up and mean faster or higher productivity and more packages out the door, more revenue out the door for your warehouse. So these are a few examples of some of the different productivity enhancements that we have, or performance enhancements that we've done just within the ShipHawk UI. We're going to continue to look for more areas to optimize our processes and speed this up to help you get those efficiencies in your warehouse.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Josh. And it looks like there's a couple questions that came in. One was around security and permissions. Again, we'll get answers to these questions. But I do want to keep going because I think there's a couple more things that we just need to cover here quickly. So if you can skip over one more slide. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick recap of what we covered. We covered a lot of information. As you can see, there's a lot deeper that we need to go to. WMS was what we talked about first, and a lot of the enhancements that are happening there. Again, if you would like to just have a conversation with us around WMS, we are happy to have that conversation. Then we moved into carriers and brokers. We talked about workflow automation and workflow enablement. We talked about integrations with different other systems, whether that's the ERP, the e-commerce cart, SPS, other systems that exist in the ecosystem, and just wrapped up with performance there. So if you can go to the next slide, Josh. I did just want to highlight a couple other things. The first is our 2023.3 release, which goes out tomorrow. You should have gotten release notes that go into details on what's being released. Please reach out to us, marketing@shipwalk.com, if you did not get those release notes. But again, that's going to cover in specifics what is being released in addition to what was covered here. And if you can go to the next slide, please. We do want to hear from you. So you are going to get an email after this webinar. It'll have a recording of the webinar. It will also have the option to book some time with your account manager. Please take advantage of that. We do want to talk to you. We want to dive into this. I know there's a lot of questions that came up that we didn't have time to answer, and we're very specific. Our goal is to make sure that we can have a conversation and really drill into your use case. So look for that email, and please do schedule time with your account manager. So with that said, thank you, Josh. That was a lot of information to get through. Thank you also to all of you for joining us. Sorry, we ran a couple minutes over, but as you can see, a lot of good content to get through. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.